Hello, I'm Meredith and I'm going to be talking today about the books I read in April and a lot of the books I hope to get to in May. I am wearing a headband today and it is definitely because I like the fashion statement and not because I haven't washed my hair in way too long. April, if you saw my last video, the end of April is Indie Bookstore Day. It's the last Saturday of each April. And so I was like really trying to bang it out so that I could read as much as I could and not get any, so that I could get a lot on Indie Bookstore Day. And I did. Go check out my video on that to see what all books I got. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. But here are the books that made that possible. I started off with The Warmth of Other Suns. It was a holdover, so I know I've talked about it before. The Epic Story of America's Great Migration by Isabel Wilkerson. I didn't even know the Great Migration was a thing. So this is such a cool and I think really important book. It contextualized so many other books for me. It gave a new understanding to the vanishing half, so fiction books, but then also Fire in a Canebrake, The Last Mass Lynching in America by Laura Wexler. This added so much context to that as well. I think this is just so important knowledge-wise. Look at all my notes, all my tabs. They all like change size and style and color because I went through a bunch of packs in order to mark this whole thing up. I think this is such a cool book, such an important book. I wasn't like blown away like I know a lot of my friends on Bookstagram are. There's one woman whose opinion I particularly hold in high regard. I think it's the Foxy something, the Foxy Reader, something like that. I forget her actual name. I just look at people's handles and I know their faces. But she is like, I think about this book nonstop. Like this is like one that's like changed her brain chemistry. And I see it. I don't think I'm gonna be thinking about this nonstop. I think years down the road, I will forget, you know, a lot of what this book is about with like the narrative and everything. And I may even forget that I read it, but the knowledge that it gives about the Great Migration, about society and culture at the time, I think will stay with me forever and will inform a lot of my understanding of different stories and current cultural events. So even if I'm not like, this is the best book ever, it has so much important information that I think will stay with me forever. So, liked it. It's stamped already. The next two I cannot stamp because they were both on my Kindle, but they're here in note card form to remind me to review and talk about them here. But so next I read The Raven King, and then I immediately went into The King's Men, like no separation. I couldn't. I thought I was obsessed with the All for the Game series after the Foxhole Court. I didn't know what obsession was. I am like, this has altered my brain chemistry. I've thought of nothing but this little made-up sport and these little delinquent teens for like the past month straight. Every book that came after it, I'm so sorry. You don't matter. They do. They're good books. I'm sorry. But it's just like, that's what's been on my mind. And I would have read a lot more books if I hadn't also, as soon as I finished The King's Men, just gone straight into fan fiction and just, so as I'm reading all the rest of these books in April, I'm also reading All for the Game fan fiction on top of them. So okay, thanks. That's what's happening. I don't know. I love delinquent teens. I can't explain it, and I will not be seeking therapy for it. I'm just so impressed with Nora Sakovic for making up a whole new sport and publishing, like, she published a freaking Xe manual. That's the name of the sport, Xe. She put out a manual, like a whole manual on how to play and the rules and regulations and the equipment. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm so impressed with her for that. The found family aspect, my little heart, it cannot take it. It can't. I love the series so much. Trigger warnings though, because they don't have trigger warnings. I feel like we should be able to go in and add them retroactively. Kindle should like have some option. Any digital platform should have the option where they can just go slide in a page and be like, hey, trigger warnings. Because there's a lot of violence in all of them. I didn't mind that, but I know some people might. Drug use and alcoholism, or at least allusions to them in these later books. The first one straight up has an overdose, but I read that in March. These two, I don't think has any explicit drug use, but definitely allusions to them. I know that can trigger people. What got me was there is a rape. I can't do that, and my brain does not process that well, and so then to not know it was coming, and then it was very graphic, and then I just couldn't process. So then like I went back, like I read the section, and then I didn't even get past, like there's immediately after it, spoiler maybe, there's a murder, which once again, other people, like that might be the triggering thing. I was lost as soon as I realized what was happening, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so like it was like, oh, a murder, and I was like, there's a murder, but click back, and I like had to reread the rape section like 3 times before like I sunk in fully, where I could not just I don't know, like I feel like the actual information wasn't sinking in, just the feeling was hitting, if that makes sense. So and yeah, it was really sudden. It was really out of nowhere. I didn't realize that was the direction this book overall was going. This happens in The Raven King, by the way. So the second book, like I thought they were all gonna run in, like they all run in because they're like, oh, that person's in trouble, and they all run and burst in, and I thought they were just gonna find the 2 people fighting. No. So I couldn't. My point is, I wish I had known going into the book, like you don't have to spoil it for me, you don't have to tell me where it is, but I wish I had known that that was coming at some point. That was a little like, that's my one critique. Yeah. And then there's also like death and suicide and more torture and violence in the third one. They're mob books, you know? Like, they're not really, but like the main antagonist is like organized crime against like these teenagers that don't want anything to do with it. So I guess you should be kind of expecting going into it that it's gonna get violent, but I would appreciate some specifics. I didn't realize sexual violence was coming, I guess is my point, and then I know there are other things that trigger other people, so, and this has like anything. This has almost anything that you could be triggered by is in these books, so, and I think that's the point, because they're like, the point is all these kids are coming, all of these college kids are coming together at this college to play Xe from bad backgrounds. And they're diverse bad backgrounds, so basically anything that could trigger you is probably in one of their backstories. Yeah, I feel like I've gone on a tangent about trigger warnings when really It's overshadowing that I love the All for the Game series. Should they have trigger warnings? Yes. Am I obsessed with them? Yes. Every single book hits. Nora Sakovic is amazing. I love them. I'm gonna reread that series at some point. There's not a lot of series that I finish and I'm like, let's go, let's do it again. But I finished All for the Game and I was like, I could reread this again. Which I think is part of why I went into fan fiction, because I was like, I shouldn't read it again. I should read more books on my TBR to have the capability to buy more on Indie Bookstore Day. But in my mind, like, fan fiction doesn't count as much. So I think that's why we went hard for the fan fiction instead of just rereading them, when all I really wanted to do was reread them. So the point I think I was making is that I will likely at some point, when I have time, when I have the space in between, you know, my got for the month and my read for the month, I will likely be rereading this series because I love it. I love it. I talked way too long about that. Anyway. Next, another sequel. A month of sequels. Hope Extinguished by Catherine Lee. I've read Love Lost by Catherine Lee earlier this year. I've talked about it. Got it at a Ren Fair last fall to support a local indie author. And I read Love Lost pretty quickly. It moved quick. It was simple. It was a little shorter. So I was like, one, I wanted to read the sequel before it got too far out, and two, I thought the sequel would move as fast. The sequel did not move as fast. In fact, when I got to maybe the last like 20 pages, I just started skimming because I was just so ready for it to be over. I feel bad, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Like, I just got so sick of these people. The characters were like kind of lovable in the first book. In the second book, and so in Hope Extinguished, I feel like the side characters became a lot more lovable than the two main characters. And so then I'm like sick of these people, and I'd rather hear about like this other person over there. But obviously they're not the point of the book. But then also they all like, it's that like trope that gets on my nerves so bad, where it's like, in order to protect you, we're not going to tell you anything at all. Which in some circumstances I get. Okay? In like superhero universes, I get it. In like crime related universes, plausible deniability, I get it. This is like, people are coming to attack her. People are literally trying to kill her. And there's this whole secret society like trying to keep her safe because she's like special. Fantasy, you know. And they just don't tell her anything. And then she like clues in by like stumbling into a meeting. And then she runs off. Because she's like upset about something else, which is supposed to be like this big, what she gets upset about is supposed to be like this big revelation in the series. Oh my gosh. But Catherine Lee just like glosses over it so much. Like, I feel like she doesn't give appropriate weight to significant events. So, and it just, you just kind of gloss over them and you go, wait a sec. And you go back and you're like, she found out this big secret. Oh, so, oh, like, it's not great. And then, oh, my point was that then she runs away from that meeting. So then she knows like vaguely that she's being protected, but nobody wants to like explain to her like what the heck is happening. Like, they all seem to know but her, and she's the one that it's relevant to. Like, I can't, I don't know. So they just got majorly on my nerves. And then and it sucks because like in the last 20 pages, I'm like, this is picking up. Like, there's a whole bunch of just, you know, like being angsty and hinting at something is gonna go wrong, and repositioning in the government and stuff. And then maybe in the last like 20 pages, there's like, fight. Oh, there's stuff happening. And I just, at that point, could not be bothered to care. So it sucked because there's like action, finally. People are coming. People are running away. There's natural disasters maybe. And I was so done that even though it picked up and I could see that it was picking up, I just skimmed, said, oh, okay. And it does leave off on like another, like, the first book very much left off on like it feels unfinished. The story's obviously not done. And this once again leaves off in a place where characters are separated. There's bigger things at work that have not been dealt with. And the story is very clearly not over. After my experience with this one, I do not know if I will be going out of my way to read more. This is the only one out right now. I don't know when the third one is out. I don't know if the third one will be the last or if there's more planned. I'm just saying I will not be like setting an alarm or anything for when the third one comes out. Okay, then, so I'm still full-brained, all for the game mode. I could not have been bothered with Hope Extinguished. So I was like, what is something that I can like focus in on while still reading my All for the Game fan fiction that's not gonna like compete with it? And I picked up Rattle issue 79. It is all poetry. So the first section is just their general poetry, and then they have a tribute to Irish poets, and then they have a conversation with an Irish poet. It was lovely. I think Rattle, just from what I saw in this issue, seems to put an emphasis on imagery and then like evoking feelings through imagery. And then the Irish poets were interesting because half of them were like Irish leprechauns with green. Like that's not meant like derogatorily. I just mean they're very like, this is what you expect of Irish poetry. And then half of them were like, my cigarettes are killing baby birds. And I was like, okay. I don't know what to say. It was enjoyable. I did actually really like the conversation with the Irish poet at the end. I thought he was very insightful and I enjoyed it. So, yes. Thanks. Then, same line of thought. What is different enough that it won't detract from my All for the Game fan fiction? I read a Batman comic. Batman Year One is good. A little silly. Which, like, yeah, I think comics, especially superhero comics, have like a right to be silly. Like, there are people running around in capes fighting crime. But it felt like there's a lot of like gritty realism up to like a certain point, and then a bat crashes through his window and he's like, that's why I'm Batman. It's like, huh? Huh? If a bat hit my window, the bat would be going down, and that threw me. And so then I was like, what? And then I couldn't take the rest of the book as seriously, but it was good. Then I was like, let's get serious. I haven't read any nonfiction this month. I finished The Warmth of Other Suns, but that was a holdover. I needed a new nonfiction. So, Follow That Arrow by Gwen Van Velser. She was my mentor to a certain extent. She wrote me a recommendation for law school. I'm going to law school, by the way. I don't think I've said that on this channel yet. Oh. Bookmark. But yes, she hiked the Camino de Santiago in Spain. And this is her memoir type thing. of that. It sounds really cool. It was really a spiritual, finding yourself kind of journey for her, finding and defining her faith. I don't know, she's just a wonderful person. So then it was nice to like hear her tell a story, and she makes the hike sound beautiful and wonderful. It does sound very cleansing and it very like community. It sounds wonderful. And all of the chapters are so short, so then it made the book feel very short to just be blasting through these chapters. So it added like a little can't put downableness to it, because every time I was like, well, I got like 2 minutes or whatever, and the next chapter would only be like 2 pages, and I'd be like, I can do it. And I'd sit and I'd just read, and every time I'd be like, well, I should probably stop soon, but then the next chapter is just a couple pages, and I'm like, that'd be soon. So I'd read the next chapter, and then it's a slippery slope. You probably get it. This signed, by the way, signed by her. I love her. Then I went to Indie Bookstore Day, and I got one book too many. Just one. So I said, what can I bang out in one night? So I got the York Review, issue 23. It is a college lit mag that I picked up when my sister was touring York College, and I went with her, and it was lovely. You know, there's definitely, I love college lit mags because they're always very college lit mag, and there's some things in there that are like, oh my gosh, a college student did this. And then there's some things in there that's like, a college student did this. And I appreciate it because like you can't, so much art is about doing and figuring it out. And I love that college students have a space to do that. And even if it's stuff that they cringe at years later, I hope that they're still proud that they did it. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And that was April. That was 9 books? That was 8 books. And so go check out the 8 books I got on Indie Bookstore Day if you would like, in my last video. But other than that, we're moving on to May books. We're in May right now. I'm doing this video a little late because I wanted to get the Indie Bookstore video up first. So we are currently over a week into May, and so I've actually already read 2 books. And I don't think it should come as a surprise to anybody that I actually, as soon as May started, came up with this TBR that I was gonna show in this video, and then immediately read 2 books that were not part of the stack I came up with. But May's my birth month. I was born on May 1st. So, full license to do whatever I want. I'm a mood reader, so it is very on brand that the month that I've decided is going to be me themed has started with 2 mood reads. First, obviously very quickly, that's how I got through it so quick. Epic, The Story God is Telling by John Aldridge. It was nice. I'm not a theologian. However you say it. So I can't speak to like, did he interpret it right? But it's a very nice book, just about how, you know, like every story has like these basic parts to it, and these basic parts are, and so like a lot of pop culture references, a lot, to showcase these different parts and then relate them back to be like, and these come from the original story, the true story. It's very nice. I don't know how to talk about it, but it was very nice. It was very nice. Then I immediately went into I Like Me Better. I got this on Indie Bookstore Day. It was a free add-on book because I purchased a book at Snug Books, and they gave you a free extra book, and it is signed by the author. I chose this one out of the freebies on the side table because gay, sports, young adult All for the game. Listen, I needed something to ease the withdrawal, something to ease the book hangover. And I thought, you know, we have the elements here. There's no gangs in this story, so that made my heart feel better. And obviously it's not the exact same. Obviously it is, it has nothing the same aside from those main overarching themes that I just said. Gay, sports, young adult. It's a rom-com. It's very nice. It's very fluffy. I was actually like, I had a physical, like, actual smile on my face as I finished it, as I read the epilogue. It's a very nice book. And it was very quick, and it was very fluffy, and it was nice. Currently, I'm reading, and this was something I planned. I was like, that's 2 books. We need to get back to things I was trying to plan on reading. I was still having a book hangover. I was not fully ready to go into an entirely different fiction book and completely leave All for the Game behind. I think I might be getting there. I think after this book and maybe one more, I'll be there. But I was like, let me do a nonfiction, so it's not like the same kind of attachment and imagination. So I chose 8 is Enough by Tom Braden. This went into the All About Meredith May book TBR because I'm also from a big family, so I like hearing about them. I like hearing how they're different and how they're similar. I thought it'd be fun to read a memoir. I'm pretty much sick of big family fiction because they're almost always written by people who have like one sibling and just don't get it. They just don't. I can't explain it to you how like wrong they get it. It's like a feeling. It's like how like people interact. It's not right. I thought I might like big family nonfiction. So this is his memoir. It's written by the dad of all these kids, and I think it's funny because it is very clearly written by the dad of all these kids. I feel almost like as I'm reading it, I'm almost done, but as I'm reading it, I very much feel like I can tell what his kids are thinking when he cannot. Like, there's some things he says about like what they're doing or what they've said to him, and I'm like, yeah. And he's being like a dad, and he's not. And I'm like, oh no. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. It's the family interactions, and it's fun, and I like it, and I'm vibing. So that was part of the plan. That's my nonfiction for the month, or my planned nonfiction for the month. Next, I think I'm going to be doing, for my poetry, Robert Frost, selected poems. This is one that I picked up a couple times over the years with the intention of reading it, and then just carried it around and not read it. So, it is in my TBR for the month. There's really no reason why this is in the May is for Meredith TBR. I think it's just the only poetry I had around. I got Batman, Court of Owls, Night of the Owls. I love Batman. So for my Lit Mag, New England Review, volume 43.4, because for law school, which I mentioned I'm going to in this video, I am going to a law school up in Boston. So I will be moving up into the New England area. I would love to see what their literary scene is like. So reading this review from there. And then lastly, aside from the Norton Book of Women's Lives, which I'm still working on, Meredith Month. Meredith Alone by Claire Alexander. She's traumatized. She's in her house. She doesn't leave it. She has a cat. She has a best friend. She just likes to hang out at home. So I'm not quite sure what the plot is. But I was like, she's Meredith. I also work from home. Yeah. Yeah, Meredith Month. Happy birthday to me. Hopefully I will read more than that. I'm trying to go hard this month. Don't ask me why. Just a vibe. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you know any of these books, if you've read any of these books, if you plan to read any of these books. I'm so excited. I feel like I have a lot to look forward to this month. And I'm really proud of myself for how I did last month. So things are going good. Now I just need to wash my hair. Have a good day. Have a good month. Hopefully I'll see you next week.